makes me wanna holler, go away. I need more peace and hope and love. Where do I find it in this crazy old world? I need strategies, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Every time I listen, Lauren and David share strategies for living, and it makes me aware. I got strategies for living, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio.
Oh, we need them. Yeah, we need those strategies, don't we? Those strategies for living. So are you ready? Are you ready for your daily dose? Your daily dose of radio rehab.
Boy, I hope they're ready.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, Gary Tiemann showed up, and so that
just tells you.
That should tell everybody, buckle in.
We're on a ride.
There you go. Hey, folks, welcome in. Welcome into Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillian. And she is psychotherapist, LPC, Lauren Leon McMillian. And he is psychotherapist, licensed clinical social worker, Gary Tiemann.
And always glad to be here, and particularly glad to be here today with our guest today.
Oh, you've outdone yourself. You know, you've been showing up, fairly regularly lately. And a lot of times you're toting guest. And here recently, one of those guests was Kevin Ryerson. And here you are back again with him. Friend. I can't believe, I don't know, I must be living right.
Must be.
And I must be living right that I can consider him a friend and colleague and mentor. So, I want to share.
Well, and Kevin, of course, a lot of people will remember if you read the Shirley MacLaine's wonderful book, Out on a Limb, or if you watched the movie, you already know who Kevin is.
Yes.
And you know a little bit about his work. But, man, when you really look at the body of work that, and not necessarily published, all of it,
right.
Because Kevin has really focused on helping people, individuals. He's probably helped more people write books than he himself has written.
Maybe so.
But, you know, I
at least in this lifetime.
Yeah, there you go. And that's some of what we're going to talk about today, as a matter of fact. So, as Lauren said, buckle up, get ready, because our life strategist today is Kevin Ryerson. Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being here with us. And we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center and Azalea Cleaners and Pintail Roofing and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. Well, wait a minute. That's Restore Healing.
That's it.
Yeah, there you go. Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of the Muffy. SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira Direct Primary Care. Back in a moment with Kevin Ryerson, our life strategist today, here on Strategies for Living. Come back with us.
Tune in daily, find the light. Healthy mind and spirits bright. Strategies for living strong. Feel the vibe, it won't go wrong. The body moves and soul alive. Catch the rhythm, feel the time. Radio rehab every day. Chase those clouds of gray away. Your daily dose of radio rehab. Lift you up when skies seem trapped. Mind and body, spirits free. Living life in harmony.
And welcome into Strategies for Living. Gary Tiemann, Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian. Let's welcome into the program now our life strategist, Kevin Ryerson. He is an acclaimed author. He's an award-winning consultant, expert, intuitive, futurist, and trans channel. in the tradition of Edgar Cayce. He's been lecturing and teaching in the field of parapsychology and spirituality for over 40 years. He's appeared as a guest on many national and international television shows that include Oprah Winfrey and Good Morning America. He's the author of the landmark book, Spirit Communication, The Soul's Path. I mentioned Shirley MacLaine's best-selling books, Out on a Limb, Dancing in the Light, and It's All in the Playing. All of those highlighted Kevin's intuitive abilities, and I could go on and on, Kevin, but we want to get you on here. So welcome to Strategies. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy our conversational style here. I feel it's a good format for people to do exactly what the title of your program is all about, gain strategies to add to their quality of life. Good to be here.
Thank you, sir. We all need them, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So
Some are better than others, too.
Absolutely. So a lot of your work, and you've got some things coming up. You've got some workshop opportunities coming up for people. We'll talk a little bit about that today around reincarnation and how that relates to the soul's evolution and figuring out one of the big questions, right? Why am I, what am I doing here? Why am I here? You've been at this quite a while, Kevin. I want to know how you keep yourself looking so good for being at it for so long.
Well, it isn't that I had a past life where I was particularly learned all the secrets of youth. I'm currently approaching my 75th birthday. I feel in pretty good shape for my years. But the bottom line is, I think it's just enjoying life. I think that a spiritual attitude helps, and I think there's even some good science behind that. People who feel that they have a deep, rich, or psychic or spiritual inner life, it does add to their longevity. And I think there's some good science behind that, as well as the people who live in what are called blue zones. Interestingly, a lot of the blue zones, which is a term to describe people who have an unusual degree where their population has a high number of centenarians, that is, people who live to be 100 or more. Interestingly, a lot of those blue zones are concentrated where people have either deep spiritual beliefs, and interestingly, part of those belief systems are subject material of reincarnation.
Yeah. And, we'll talk a little bit about one of the things that you and Gary are involved in. Both of you have been involved in this for some time, is Walter Simcoe, Dr. Walter Simcoe, and his work. We were blessed enough to have Dr. Simcoe as a life strategist here a couple of times, maybe 3 times on the program.
Not enough.
Yeah. And, I'm so grateful to you, Kevin, you, Gary, and the rest of the group that is continuing to keep that work going.
We're also grateful to Walter for getting this started and opening the door for us to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that Walter said, Kevin, and we were talking a little bit about this before we went on the air, that reincarnation is really a spiritual technology. We may not always think about that in that way in our Western way of looking at things. But I think he's right on target.
I think he's on to something there. Yeah, it makes total sense.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Kevin. Reincarnation as a spiritual technology.
Well, yes, it ties into Walter's even research model. Walter began his research by working with what he considered the gold standard of reincarnation research, which was the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson, who even got Carl Sagan to ruminate that the evidentiary standards by Dr. Stevenson's investigation into children who had memories across a wide range of different demographics essentially had such good documentation of their memories, then the ability to document the existence of those memories, that he developed his famous 26 cases suggestive of reincarnation. So beginning with that baseline, Walter, however, wanted to develop a reincarnation model that allowed people who did not necessarily have memory recall as children from past lives as a standard, just as evidence that reincarnation existed. He really wanted to develop a methodology and explore how any person, in particular adults, might be able to recover memories of other lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he developed what he called his 10 principles that are sort of like hallmarks of reincarnation, that as those evolved in his own research into various reincarnation cases, the bottom line is he then would go back to the Stevenson cases to see if the phenomena that he was observing had validation in that body of research.
Yes.
So, as in good science, he was not only just replicating the evidence that reincarnation existed as a phenomena, as a physician and as someone who had completed also psychiatric training, he was interested in developing it as we use the term, spiritual technology, so it could be applicable in the broadest range and accessible by persons in the broadest range, to where it could bring benefits to the individual and to society as a whole. One of his first insights is that in psychological therapies or in communications, if persons could come to what he called a rational epiphany based on a high evidence standard, that they might have the properties of being another person, or develop high empathy towards other persons, because they might walk a mile in that person's shoes or moccasins.
Right.
The bottom line is that out of that rational epiphany, you had the foundations of them becoming into their fullest human potential.
How is, of course, we're babies in our culture at this. I'm putting that in air quotes. I'm not, but other cultures have really embraced reincarnation as a spiritual technology. Us, not so much. How are those cultures that have embraced reincarnation? How are they different? How does that operate different from kind of the way we do?
We can isolate some of the historical points in Western culture by its principles, what we identify as Western culture, say, European and maybe Western-centric evolution in our spiritual history, in that we came very close to inheriting at least a model very close to reincarnation through the theological origins of Christianity.
Right.
There was the go-to guy in the first 100 years immediately after the origins of Christianity in the life of Yeshua, that is Jesus, is the go-to scholar who is known as Origen of Alexandria.
Yes.
Essentially, he had a model that came very close to the threshold of what we understand as classic reincarnation.
Right.
But debate points developed in later parts of the Christian community, particularly from Augustine and Justinian and very other church fathers, that eventually developed the idea that we live one mortal existence. There's no pre-existence of the soul, and that at the time of physical passing, the will of the individual is fixed, and there is no further evolution that can occur.
Right.
Whereas Origen argued that we come into an embodiment, as he calls it, that all souls started out as rational beings. We eventually were co-creators with the divine. And then we moved into such deep areas of moving away from the divine into matter that we had stages of embodiment. We could be angels, we could be humans, and eventually even those ill souls sometimes referred to as ill spirits per se.
Right.
But his argument is that we had embodiments that, in his own term, bore the marks that were necessary for the soul to learn its lessons, and that anything in the form of the relationship of fires in the afterlife were referred to in theological terms as medicinal. It meant that it was a purification of the soul until an embodiment was achieved where there could be a reunion with the divine.
Right.
So that's the point in which the West began to deviate from some of the other spiritual practices that we see around the globe.
So it really it really came down to one. This was in early Christianity, but it didn't. I hate to say it this way. It didn't win.
It didn't catch fire.
Yeah, it did. Oh, that's a good way to say it. We got to
There's actually some good innuendo in it didn't catch fire because apparently everybody else is if you don't behaviors.
We got to take a break here. Kevin Ryerson is our life strategist today. You can find him at kevinryerson.com. We've mentioned Walter Simkew's research. Reincarnationresearch.com is a treasure trove of information. And of course, there's GaryTiemann.com. All of those things, all of those places is where you can get more information. But you can also get a lot of information by coming back and staying with us today here on Strategies for Living, because we've got lots more to learn from Kevin Ryerson, our life strategist. Stay with us.
Strategies for Living Radio.
Yeehaw! Yeah, we need them. We need those strategies for living. Welcome back, folks. Gary Tiemann, always, when he shows up at Strategies for Living, he's always bringing somebody extraordinary with him. He's outdone himself today because Kevin Ryerson is our life strategist today. You can find out more about Kevin's work, and there's some workshops coming up. We'll talk about them a little later in the program, but you can get the information at kevinryerson.com. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian with Gary and Kevin. Kevin, you made so much sense in the last segment in terms of, this is what happened. But, thanks to people like you, thanks to people like Gary, thanks to people like Dr. Simkew, more and more people today have recognized, and are continuing to recognize the potential benefits of embracing reincarnation.
For me, it's getting to the point I don't understand how reincarnation isn't part of mainstream psychology. But, we got a ways to go.
Yeah, we do. But, what's going on at this point is lots of individuals. Kevin, what do you tell people in terms of, okay, if they've listened to the last segment and it makes sense to them, what can we do? How can we individually embrace this idea and use it to evolve ourselves and grow ourselves psychologically, emotionally, spiritually?
Well, there's two factors here. One, we did address the idea that people have a deeper spiritual inner life that brings them, a sense of well-being. And there is good science that shows that people who have that deeper inner spiritual life, it adds to their well-being, which we had discussed earlier. And actually, I think I maybe have a surprise in the idea of statistics about the belief of reincarnation within Western society. Chicago University runs a theological survey at various times, and they found that surprisingly, even at the time of the emergence of this type of thought process that began to broaden, say around in the 1980s, when Shirley's book was first published, which is recognized as having a sociological impact,
Yes.
let alone the miniseries, which was considered to have mainstreamed a great deal, at a minimum, the conversation
Yes.
on the types of materials that's examined here in the program. But the Chicago University study I'm referring to, even at that time, said there actually was a 17 percentile part of the U.S. population that actually subscribed to reincarnation. And this was across all demographics.
Right.
And one of the latest polls from that same source essentially said that has risen since the 1980s to the present day to as high as 27 to as high as 32%. And again, that's across all demographics.
Right.
And when you take into account the study that says that any population or representation of a population that now reaches sort of like, I believe the number is like 3.5% of any demographic groups and hold a common value, believe, or adhere to a certain process, that is when it becomes a permanent value and begins to grow and have leverage within the greater population.
Right. Kind of a critical mass, if you will.
Exactly. And then out of that critical mass is when a multitude of different benefits begin to emerge as networks of people who hold similar values begin to accumulate. And there's almost in a byproduct of social transformation and dividends that begins to unfold from that. And I do have an interesting example that's connected to Shirley's work that I did have to offer some encouragement in, that I could give that example at this point in time, if you would like.
Yeah, please do. Please.
Well, it had to do with Shirley's book called The Camino. And this is where we really get into this phenomena as a technology or as a form of spiritual benefits or sociology even.
Right.
When Shirley authored a book called The Camino, where she had hiked one of the sacred pilgrimage trails in northern Spain, and when she had done that, the number of people who hiked that particular pilgrimage trail, which was 500 miles long,
right,
there were numbers between as few as, say, 20,000 and maybe a high water mark of, say, 60,000 that occurred in that period of time when she was first walking the trail. Even earlier in the 1980s, it was few as just a few thousand people. But when Shirley walked the trail at the age of 60, covering the 500 miles,
wow,
and then she gave authorship to it with my encouragement in the late 1990s. In fact, I think the book came out in 1999 or 2000. Immediately after that, the number of people walking the trail rose to 500,000.
Wow.
And that increase, not just measured in tourism, but measured in that many people cumulatively, a critical mass, as you described it, began hiking the trail. There was a phenomena that was occurring that's pretty well known popularly of population migrations out of traditional areas where there was intense poverty, lack of sociological resources. And all along that 500-mile trail, villages that were being abandoned began to be repopulated because an entire new service base began to emerge. The traditional hospitality industry began to be somewhat modernized. It did challenge some of the traditional spiritual hospitality industry, but an entire new modern infrastructure eventually emerged, and the entire region reversed its poverty trend and population migration trend to where there have been returning generations to the region and regeneration of entire villages that were ghost towns in 1990s are now a thriving community along that whole 500-mile trail. And this has spread to other pilgrimage trails to where sociological studies actually attribute the phenomena of this reverse population and expansion of economic benefits. Micro transportation systems had to be set up to handle the expanding demographics of people coming to the region.
Right.
It's attributed to actually having added to the desirability of various other places in Portugal, France, and Italy of people seeking even citizenship in the EU with mature income and bringing economic transformation to some of these lost areas or regions, and even helping restoring traditional values within the communities because of returning generations.
Right.
So, and the common denominator is that Shirley was sharing past life memories that she had along the trail.
Yeah.
And that became a new additional value that people were looking for when they were traveling the trail. A sense of familiarity with geographies that they were visiting. And it created a bond where they actually wanted to live in those places and live out the sense of renewed feeling and well-being and esteem that they felt by connecting with these regions.
Amazing. And, it just, I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm thinking back to Yeshua for a second. He talked over and over and over about the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven. And that's, you've just delineated such an excellent example of what can happen,
And that's not even getting into the spiritual aspects of it. That's just kind of the benefit of people seeking this stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a good enough biblical scholar to remember it exactly, but I mean, didn't he say something like, knock and the door will open, seek and you'll find? In other words, move towards spiritual growth and development, and
it will unfold.
Yeah, you'll grow.
I think that that's part of the key, that what it is about reincarnation is that reincarnation allows for a form of communion with the divine where there's no hindrances. There's accountability in the sense of actions we've taken returned as karma. But the other underutilized language in Sanskrit is the word dharma. The dharma simply means the means to access communion with the divine. It means the ability of forgiveness, or in grace, but in biblical terminology. And the ability, I think, to walk things like the Pilgrim's Trails and feel that you can have direct communion with the divine at any moment in time. That is knocking, at the various stations along these types of sacred trails, which interestingly enough do fall into another esoteric concept, that they seem to fall along what are called ley lines or energy lines, and tap into a whole other level of metaphysics that we don't necessarily have to go into, but I thought it made an interesting addition to the idea of spiritual technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that may just be an excuse for us to have you back because there's so much here to talk about. We're about a minute away from a break. I know that you work individually with people, Kevin. Maybe in this next segment we'll talk a little bit about that. But you've got an opportunity coming up, a fantastic opportunity for all of us to be able to take advantage of reincarnation, soul evolution, and human purpose. And people can find out more about that at kevinryerson.com, or you can stay right here and I hate to say hear it from the horse's mouth, but there you go.
That's why you were yeehawing.
Yeah, that's why I was yeehawing. Kevin Ryerson,
Of course.
our life strategist today here on Strategies for Living, reincarnation, soul evolution, and human purpose. We'll talk about all of that and more as this conversation unfolds and continues here on Strategies for Living. We'll be right back.
We all have problems every day. We all need along the way. We need strategies, strategies, strategies for living radio.
And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Gary Tiemann, Lauren McMillian, David McMillian. Privileged to have Kevin Ryerson as our life strategist today. And he's got a seminar coming up that is called Reincarnation, Soul Evolution, and Human Purposes. Kevin, if you'll forgive me for just a second, I need to add an editorial comment. Forgive me. Mm-hmm. But, you know, since Gary came into my life many, many years ago.
It's been a while. And I've listened. I opened up to the possibility. I mean, Gary knows this. The first time he probably brought it up, I summarily rejected it. There's hope for all of us.
There is. But what I want to say is I continue to be what I consider to be, I mean, some people around me may not consider, but I consider myself to still be a fairly conservative individual. I was taught a number of things. I was raised as a Christian. That still resonates with me. So what I want people to hear is you don't have to reject, to be able to add. This is an add thing. Right. This in Louisiana, the word is lagniappe. This is, this is more, not less. You don't have to, it's not an either or thing. So I hope you'll forgive me that editorial comment, but I just have to say that, I don't want anybody to think that we're saying, oh, you've got to give up what you've always believed or what you've always thought.
Explore and see what resonates.
Yeah. It's an add to thing. So tell us about what's coming up with Reincarnation, Soul Evolution, and Human Purpose. It's going to be Sunday, July the 26th. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And by the way, that was less of an editorial than confession's good for the soul. And I thought you articulated that very well. I myself came up with a Judeo-Christian background and still consider myself of that particular faith. And as I was pointing out, the works of Alexandria, Origin of Alexandria,
right, essentially
leaned into this phenomenology that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So it is at trying to add knowledge to people. And Dr. Walter Simcoe's approach is that he held a scientific skepticism concerning these matters. And in his journey with me, he initially approached it as skepticism.
Right.
But eventually he found that there were enough case histories that we built that people can take a look at a site called reincarnationresearch.com. And they can take a look at the various case histories there themselves. And as to Dr. Simcoe, including me in his work, is that he wanted to go beyond just the science that had been built to making reincarnation, as we said before, an applicable spiritual technology. And it's as an applicable spiritual technology that we will be examining reincarnation from in the teleseminar, as I call it, that people can gain more information at my website, which is just my name, kevinryerson.com. And it's as a spiritual technology that we will be exploring in the teleseminar format. We'll be looking at how can people retrieve their own past life memories, what those past life memories mean to them as individuals. And often the benefits of that is that people begin to refined talents that they may have.
Mm.
They feel at times a release in the area of the idea maybe of a burdensome past, and they feel an invigoration and an inspiration from what Dr. Semkiw called the rational epiphany or the conscious epiphany as to how they're functioning in a spiritual reality rather than necessarily just the continuous opposition of a material or social forces against them. In other words, it's considered a transcendental experience that is self-empowering for the person to actually go even deeper into their own potential in beliefs, talents, skills, and abilities that may actually that they had awareness of, but this makes them applicable to them. It makes it more fully functional.
Right.
So whatever that talent may be, whether it's a person who may have agricultural skills, it may be a person who has mechanical skills, it may be a person who may have any type of a wide skill base that they have, that some people, after undergoing insights into other lives, went from, say, working for other persons and institutions into their own enterprises and were quite successful with it, with this sort of consciousness reinvigoration that they were able to pursue. And a recent past life of an associate of Gary and I and Walter's, his name is Chuck McMurray, who's was a client of mine for any number of years. And he underwent some past life regressions where he began to recall memory. And one of the new methodologies that's emerging is that we actually used artificial intelligence to examine his personality type, find that other personality type in a past life, make a correlation for him, because it used to take Dr. Semkiw about a month of research in an individual case in order to have the evidence base of the past life in the form of talents, abilities, cycles of history, or the so-called karmic makeup or personality of the individual. But with the AI, you can do that more quickly and accurately. Because in a way, it's just like a large encyclopedia.
Yeah.
And the benefits to our associate is he felt it explained mechanical skills he had. It allowed him to make some clear career decisions to where he's now in his own enterprise, shifting from one career into the career he now has as an artificial intelligence engineer. That's one example of
all these things shall be added unto you.
Amen.
All right, so don't miss out, folks, on this opportunity. It's a 4-hour immersive exploration of reincarnation and consciousness and the patterns that shape all of our lives. And, you know, we all have the questions. I mentioned the question, what are we doing here? We also have the question of, you know, why am I here and where am I going? And I think this 4-hour seminar offers the opportunity for a lot of answers, maybe, that you have not had. Visit kevinryerson.com. And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Gary Tiemann, Lauren McMillian, David McMillian. Privileged to have Kevin Ryerson and to have spent some time with him today. Kevin, my only complaint, and it's so every time you come, is we need a lot more hours with you. So, but my producer's shaking his head and saying, no, we got to get off the air. So what do you really want people to remember about? We've had a wide-ranging conversation today. What do you really hope that people take away from our conversation?
I hope that people take away the idea that reincarnation is very much part of a natural evolution of themselves as human beings, that it can help them obtain, deeper potential. And they're not alone in their journey, even in the Western culture, in that in the majority world, reincarnation is held almost as a universal value amidst, in particular, the more mystical parts of the great spiritual practices in the world, and that it's a journey. And it's a communion with deeper parts of their own spirituality and whatever term they use to describe the divine. But above all else, it's a highly accessible part of their humanity that they're able to apply in new and in creative ways.
Thank you so much for the work that you do and for taking time out of, I know, your busy schedule to join us. Thank you, and look forward to the next time you're here.
Okay, thank you. I enjoy. Thank you for having me on the program.
Absolutely. Folks, go to kevinryerson.com, find out more. Check out the upcoming seminar, July the 26th. You can also visit reincarnationresearch.com. You can visit GaryTiemann.com. And thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, The Balanced Life. Oh, wait a minute. It's not Balanced Life. It's Restore Healing. Fertitta's Delicatessen, SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira Direct Primary Care. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you be calling? What would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Kevin Ryerson, for Gary Tiemann, for Lauren Leon McMillian, I'm David McMillian. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.